Hello, 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 hello. It's Deanya. Hello, Hope Crew family. Hello, YouTube. I am here today with a story poem about racism. And the question of will things ever change in the United States? How long does it take? How long does change take? And haven't we had long enough, I guess, is my question. But today is in response. The Charlotte Arena had a question on one of my pieces, and they asked, is this a poem or is this a story? And so to think about the difference, if you think about a poem should be written so that every single word has been weighed out carefully. Its etymology, its history, its roots, the things it's going to evoke for the reader when you say that word. As a writer, when you write a poem, you need to think about all that. You need to decide how long your lines are going to be. How much information can your reader take when it's so compact? You need to think about the sounds that you're doing. You want to make unexpected connections so that you get more bang for your buck. And so, yeah, I'm a writing teacher. It's coming out now, isn't it? So, when you're writing a poem or you're paying attention to every single word, sometimes you're working with meter, sometimes you're working with rhyme, sometimes you're working with something called internal rhyme. Maybe I'll do some poetry classes on here. So there's some different things to think about. Now, a story is a lot looser. A story has an arc. A story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it might not be a happy end, and it might not be the end of the story. A whole story might take place before something actually happens, waiting for something to happen. So this is also something to think about. And so, is it a poem? Is it a story? This one is a story poem. And it was written because of a woman. Many of my poems were written while I was at Syracuse University working on a degree in cultural rhetoric, which is how groups of people speak to each other and based on race, class, gender, sexual orientation, difference. I went there looking at the differences between Chinese and ancient Greek. And so I am a real language geek. And this is a story poem because a woman that I met in Syracuse while I was doing this degree, I would often talk to people in the park. And she was one of the women that I met that I had seen there a couple of times. And so about the third time I saw her, I went up to her and I said, "Hey, I've seen you here several times. Do you have a child?" She was watching a game, and a football game. And she said no, and she went on and she told me this story. So I want to share it with you. It's not as tight, it's not as good. I haven't revised it very much. I put it down after I wrote it and I haven't really looked back at it. But I think it needs to be out there, especially now, today. I probably wrote it about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Isn't that a shame? It's called Will It Ever Be? She walks every Saturday to the park. The football game practiced by pee-wee neighborhood kids, and the tune of her bum hip and diabetic feet that plays her 74-year-old body. I don't know if she wears her nurse's uniform every week, but she does today. Squeaky clean, in white shoes, white stockings, white dress, white sweater, her dark brown skin providing contrast and reason for her journey. It's for the kids, she tells me. points out the only 2 boys on the field with grandmothers at home. 11 don't know their fathers. 2 have lost their mothers. She's been coming to watch the scrimmage every week for 7 years now. They grow up before her eyes, call her Granny Carrie, sometimes stop by to talk when they drop off younger brothers in flashy new cars that she worries are bought with drug money or worse. I had a son, she starts, but of course I don't, so I wait for the story. Died when he was 8 from the colic and complications. Back then weren't naught but white doctors. Black folk had to show the money up front, and I had neither money nor husband. When I took him to the hospital, they pointed us to the back door. Now this was the South in those days. Left there when I was 19 and never looked back. After 4 hours sitting there in what could have been a closet with a single bare light bulb and 3 hard-backed chairs made for school children, a white nurse came in, gave me 6 aspirin and told me to go home. It'll be all right, she told me. My baby dying with fever in my arms. But that's when I decided to become a nurse, she says. And now I see that God had a plan. And I can sit here and tell you there's many children would have died but for me. Did nursing for 35 years. She shifts her weight and seems to sit up younger. But you know one thing? In 35 years, I never lied to anybody. I never gave anybody an aspirin. And I never looked a black mother in the eye and told her it'll be all right.